Hey, everybody, welcome back to the ChatGTM podcast. We are fresh off the road from coming back from the Prosper Accelerate Conference in Dallas, Texas at the beautiful Omni Hotel. Joined with me, as almost always, is Mr. Chad Horn. Chad, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, Beck. Happy to be back home, recovered, back at work. 2 week break before back on the road again, but a lot can happen in that 2 weeks.
And so Chad is in the Zen mode. I'm more on my Zenith rising here. I'm going to try to temper that down, especially with the gravitas of the guest we have on today, somebody who I respect immensely, has grown to be a friend over the last several months, and a business that I can't deny is something truly special. This is Mr. Rich Falto from Point B. Rich, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Welcome, Rich.
Thank you, guys. I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. It's good to see you both.
Glad to, and I'm glad that everything worked out for you in Texas. The team, I got to tell you a little anecdote about Pat. So we're in Texas. We're at the Prosper Accelerate Conference, and Point B was a meaningful sponsor of that event, right? And part of that, I think you guys had a stage commitment to introduce the next guest. And the whole format of the Prosper Accelerate is to elevate up and coming leaders in the industry, right? And Point B rightfully determined that Pat was a great fit for that. And I have to agree, I've watched him in the marketplace. He's an exceptional executive. And thankfully, well, not thankfully, but you were going to be the one that was doing the presenting, I believe, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you had a family issue come up that thankfully turned out to be nothing more than a mild concern that you had to go take care of that pulled you away from the property, right? Now, Pat, is it Cormier or Cormany? How do you pronounce it? Cormany. Your able adjutant was there. And like a faithful deer in headlights, made his way to the stage and gave the introduction that should have been yours. And he shared with me this moment and his anxiety around it and how he got through that as a true leader does. And I think the true leaders apparently are like Wolf on old school, and they fetch into their lizard brain and just say some stuff and it comes out beautifully. But we saw him and he did admirably well. Like this, you guys picked so beautifully with him in so many different ways. I can't say enough things about Pat that really just tell me how well organized and how
I didn't
smart
know
your
he
organization
didn't
is.
get to rehearse that.
Well,
He did great.
I'll tell you this, a little background on what happened. I was at the hospital dealing with a family situation when I got a text message from the head of the production company that was running things for the Accelerate conference.
Was that the "Where are you" text?
That was the "Where are you?" And you're going to be on stage soon, and you need to come back to the green room or whatever. And,
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't even know I was going on stage. They hadn't told me. So I was like, well, this is a bit of a surprise. I was like, I don't know what I need to do here, but I better go get somebody to fill in. And so I called Pat immediately and I said, hey, Pat, the production folks are looking for me to go out on stage and I don't know what for, but you're about to find out because I need you to go do it in my place. And Pat was like, well, what do I have to say? And I was like, I don't know, man. You're going to have to figure it out when you get there.
Yeah.
So Pat, I put the production folks in touch with Pat and he went and did his thing. And I got to see a video of it afterwards and he did a great job. And I was so excited for him, but he was real nervous, I think, about, going and doing that. But it all worked out really well.
Yeah, I'm sure he just wanted to nail it for you guys.
He did.
It's interesting, I was in Chicago last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? Just all goes quickly, but I was in Chicago 2 weeks ago for the NAC show, and turned out that your team, as you keep making news out there, had some recent news about an award you'd won that was presented to you by Whataburger, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm downstairs waiting to go up and interview Jerry about the VP of IT, VP of IT from Whataburger.
That's right.
Yeah, and I can't get in, and I can't get to the rest. I can't get to John and the rest of the folks there, and so I didn't know where Pat was, but I figured I'd shoot him a text. Pat should be unplugged at this moment because he's climbing up a mountain in Japan. And he calls me back. He says, hey, Beck, what do you need? I was like, and he told me where I was. I'm like, Pat, it's okay. Go climb the mountain. And just another personal testament about this guy who cares so much to just figure out what's going on, even though I'm not being mean to myself, but I'm a vendor, right? Yeah. And he cared enough to figure out what it was. And it's another thing just reaffirmed, this is a really cool guy. So, but let's pivot here. Let's talk about Whataburger. You shared with us that you guys had a surprise. Tell us a little bit about that moment. I mean, because most times you know when you're getting an award, right? You know, or in many cases or some cases, you fund it. You say, I do this thing, I pay some money, they give me an award, we all get recognition, everybody's feeling good. That wasn't the case. What award did you get and how'd that happen? And tell me a little bit about that fund. I didn't know.
Well, I guess maybe I'll start with this for your audience, for anybody who may not know who Point B
Oh
is.
yeah, I cannonballed in there.
Yeah, let me just maybe
Yeah.
back us up a little bit and
Yep.
I'll dig into the award, but I think it might be helpful just to kind of frame it with Point B is a management consulting services company that supports a variety of industry verticals. I happen to lead our restaurant and hospitality vertical, which is one that we've been working in for many, many years. Our oldest client in the restaurant industry is almost 30 years of us supporting them in literally hundreds and hundreds of projects. And we have a large team still supporting that client to this day. And so, over a number of years, many leaders from that client, which is a large coffee retailer, your guests, folks who listen to this podcast could probably guess who that is, but just to support my NDA, I'm going to just leave it there. But that particular client over many years had their executives leave and go elsewhere to become very senior leaders at some of the largest restaurant brands. And so when they would arrive there, they would call us and have us come in and help them with a variety of things. And so I'd like to take what Point B does in the restaurant space and kind of boil it down to three things, right? Number one, we help restaurants perform. Number two, we help them prepare to scale. And number three, we help them become more efficient. And how we do that varies from client to client, but we have various offerings, technologies, methodologies, templates, all these different things that we bring to bear to help clients do those types of things. But it is often foundationally focused on, at least at a starting point, helping them develop the right strategy, select the right technologies to build the right stack to achieve the outcomes that they seek and drive greater experiences for their guests and for their team. And in some instances for their franchisees as well, if they are a franchise business. So that's kind of at a high level what we do. And so going back to your question about the award, one of the leaders that came from that large coffee retailer wound up at a company called Whataburger. And I would imagine that most people know who Whataburger is, but they're a large burger chain out of Texas that's been around for 75 years. This is their fifth year. And 3 years ago, they reached out and asked for some help. And we originally went in to help them do some strategy work. It led to other things. And ultimately, they asked us, hey, can you help us scope a transformation? We're thinking about going through the biggest transformation we've ever gone through in our history. And it is a full tech stack transformation. Basically, all the technologies that support the inside of a Whataburger restaurant, they wanted to modernize and rethink what does that future look like for them. So anyway, so they engaged Point B to kind of serve as the tip of the spear to drive that forward for them. And so over the last couple of years, we've had a large team working with them to think through how do we go through the change? How do we go through the training? How do we design the program? How do we configure and integrate all of these solutions? How do we structure the data? How do we get the processes in place to actually make all of this work for our business? How do we pilot it? How do we get it out there and actually verify that it works? And how do we tailor this to the needs of our business? And so that is what we've been doing. What we didn't know happening behind the scenes was that as Whataburger was preparing for their, I guess it's kind of a conference that they do every couple of years. They bring in all of their operators from across the country, and then a lot of folks from corporate, and then the leadership, the field leadership, they all come together and they have a big conference. And it's not uncommon, right, in the restaurant industry to do things like this. And it's a great way to bring people together and lay out, here's the plan for the future, and get them excited, and here's our focus, and here's how we're going to grow, and bring them up to speed on all the things. Well, on the last day of the conference, they did an awards ceremony where they recognized their operators and market leaders and various folks involved in their business, but they also recognized their partners, and they had, I want to say, 4 partner awards. And Whataburger has probably hundreds of partners, many of whom have been working with them for many, many years. And we had not been working with them, but only for a few years, and was not expecting what happened that night. But essentially, we walked into the awards banquet, which probably had about 2,000 people in it, at big round tables across this huge banquet room. And we sat in the back corner, and we're not.
And you almost passed on this event, right?
We almost passed. We almost thought maybe we'll just go out to dinner as a team that night,
Right.
and
This is tribal. This is theirs. That kind of
just
thing.
skip it. But
Yeah.
earlier in the day, our primary contact at Whataburger, who we work with a lot, Jerry Phillips, said, "Hey, you guys should be at the awards ceremony tonight." And so we were like, all right, we'll come. But we sat in the back and we didn't really expect anything. And as they were going through and preparing to do the partner awards, they called out Point B's name for a partner award called the Trailblazer Award. And we were absolutely shocked. And I think they were starting to wonder if we were even there, because it took us so long to get to the stage because we were so far in the back of the room. And I was not even dressed appropriately to receive the award.
Oh my goodness.
Because we weren't expecting this to happen. I literally walked up on stage with an untucked shirt and my sleeves rolled up, and here I am with the entire
Backwards
executive
hat?
team of Whataburger, and they presented me with this award, and I accepted it, on behalf of Point B and our team, who has done an amazing job working with them. So that's what happened. Michael Beck, what would you like to know?
Well, one, I mean, I love the fact that you had no idea it was coming, right? There's a certain humility to that. I think the fact that you almost skipped it is hilarious, right?
Yes.
I also think that kind of recognition is so meaningful when they have so many other choices to make. The question I guess I have, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chad because I've been dominating this conversation so far, is what was the attribution? Why did they say it? And my old CEO always used to say you can't claim your own integrity, and I love it when other people claim it for you, right? And so why do you think what did they share about why they awarded you this?
I can't remember the exact words that they used to describe why they awarded us with this, but the essence of it was that it was for a partner that went above and beyond to help them drive an outcome for their most critical project and work with their other partners to make it successful and really place the needs of Whataburger first above all else. And I think that, and I think it also was around, we were easy to work with along the way. I think that they used words like we were collaborative, which I think meant a lot. I always tell people that one of the things that makes Point B different is that when we do work with a client, we don't come in and do a project to a client, we do a project with a client. I think Whataburger felt that. They just felt something different in the way we approached the work and the way we were there to support them and bring expertise to the table and all of those types of things. And I think that was ultimately what, they recognized us for. But, you talked with Jerry Phillips, a few weeks ago. I would say, would you say that you talked to him about this very thing? What do you think?
Well, what Jerry shared with me is, I think the part that really stood out was the blurred line. And it's something I keep hearing about Point B, which is the blurred line. And by definition, what I'm saying for the audience is that there's a point in time, it sounds like, the people don't know where you work. They don't know if you're part of the brand or you're Point B because you're so entrenched with them in a very positive way, right? That stood out to me. That really stood out to me.
Well, we don't want to come in and just, we're the consultants and we're off to the side and we're just observing and telling people what to do. Like, a big part of the way we approach things is we want to be side by side with them, doing the thing, learning about their business, understanding their culture, what makes them different, and then tailoring our approach and everything that we do to that. And a lot of that starts with us working in the restaurant with the brand right off the bat.
You guys were literally flipping burgers and making fries.
Yes, every single member of our team would go and spend 1 to 3 days working in a restaurant to understand how they do things. Because I'm of the belief that it's one thing to go and observe someone doing something. It's a whole nother thing to actually do it yourself.
100%.
And you really,
it's called the stopwatch, right?
Yes. I mean, you have a greater appreciation for the challenges that someone's faced with. And I think that they're more willing to share things with you once they see you in there doing it and struggling with them, right? And you're trying to do the best you can, and you're faced with buzzers and timers and people yelling stuff out, and you got to get this burger down the line and get this order right and get it out to the driver. There's so much going on, and it's nonstop. And we experience this with all of our clients to some degree, and it is eye-opening. And I think it just allows us to approach working with a brand in a different way. And so I would argue that it started with that, and it's just built on from there. There was a great degree of willingness for them to open up with us because they felt like we were side by side with them right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Chad?
So Rich, when I think what's going on in the industry right now, so many challenges industry faces, and I think more than ever because of those challenges, because of AI and technology and what people sense as the opportunity there, we're seeing brands aspire and wanting to transform more than they ever have, but we also see them running up against the limits of what they're capable of, right? It starts with the people, cultural limits. What is their ability, as a team? What is their ability to navigate change? What is their experience level with all of this? Reconcile that for us, right? Brands want to do it more than they ever have, but are countering their limitations. And then they've obviously have the option of working with the guys like you. Where can you bridge the gap, or where do they have to mature as a company and team first? In addition to
That's a great question. It's the kind of question that I could give you the typical consultant answer of, well, Chad, it depends. Right. And it's interesting because I think you're right. A lot of brands are struggling with, how do I transform this business so that I can prepare myself, my company for the future? How do I set my company up so that we're doing things for our guests before they know they need them or want them? How do I embrace all of the latest technologies? How do I build a foundation that sets me up so that I can scale and meet the needs of my franchisees and my long-term business goals really effectively? How do I drive greater degrees of performance out of the current portfolio of restaurants that I have today in lieu of going out and just building new ones over and over and over because it's so capital intensive and the cost for that is high? There's a lot of challenges that restaurants are faced with. And so I think that when they start to think about transforming, depending on the degree of transformation that a brand needs to go through, right, because it does vary, I think that there's a few things that arguably need to happen. One, you've got to have some degree of alignment at the leadership level with what is the North Star, where do we want to ultimately go? And then there's got to be some clarity on the strategy to get there. And if there's not, then that's probably a great opportunity to engage a company like us because that's one of the things we do really well. But let's assume that they have that strategy and that now they're ready to start going through a transformation. Well, then they have to start thinking about, do I have the resources to even support this? Because it is a tremendous amount of work. And so you can't continue to do your day job and then try to run a transformation off the corner of your desk a few hours a week. It's just not, it's not going to be a good strategy. It's going to be very challenging. And a lot of strategies are a lot of transformations are met with failure. And what do I mean by that? Like, you don't get the expected outcome that you start with saying this is what needs to happen in order for this to be successful, and then it's not. And you start to go back and dissect and analyze, well, why didn't we get that? And a lot of times it's because we don't focus on the transformation the way that we need to. The next thing is selecting the right set of partners to help enable it and to bring that transformation to life. The outcomes will definitely not be achieved if you just go around and pick a bunch of shiny objects, right? That's not going to get you there. And it has to be where you start to think through bringing together the right set of partners, capabilities, technologies in a really thoughtful way that will work with what you have. Because we can't just rip out everything and start over in most cases. In a select few, perhaps. So, figuring that out, super challenging. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of brands will kick the can down the road because they recognize this is not easy. It's very expensive and can be very time consuming. But if they do decide to go down that path, and I'm speaking probably more for larger brands, engaging companies like us to do that is probably a good way to go, to at least explore what could a transformation look like, right? Do I have the right strategy in place to even achieve it? Am I considering the right partners, right? Things like that. is this going to actually drive the outcomes for my business that I think it will? And how will we determine if we have in fact been successful? It's not about just putting in a new point of sale. It's usually much more complicated than that. But if that's all you're going to do, you probably need to think about the fact that I tell people this all the time, replacing your point of sale is like doing open heart surgery on a restaurant. And the question is, if you pull it out and you can't get it to work right when you put it back in, what do you stand to lose?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's almost
a
like
lot.
brain surgery with the violin that you're playing it because you still have to keep going while it's happening in most cases, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of brands right now are, you know, very interested in AI and AI solutions
Very
and all of
sexy.
that. But we're also hearing that a lot of brands are struggling to get the ROI out of some of the AI solutions that they're implementing. And we know of a handful that have actually implemented technology that they're now in the process of ripping out. And so you got to ask yourself, I mean, that can't be the outcome that they want, right? And is it that the tech didn't work, or was it the way they went about it, or they didn't put the right processes, or they didn't have the right data, or it
Yeah.
didn't get integrated correctly? I mean, there's so many variables as to why something could go wrong. These things can be complicated, but they can also be simplified, and you don't have to go in and boil the ocean, and that's not what we would ever suggest. I think being really pragmatic about what's realistic for your company and what can be achieved is probably where you need to start. And it doesn't have to happen all overnight. Like setting realistic timelines is another thing that's really important. So, Chad, I know I've gone on and on with my answer here, but I would go back to my original answer. It depends.
Depends.
Chad, you had actually some was a data point you were talking about AI failure rate or AI deployment failure rates. Was it 90%? I mean, I don't want to swing. What was that number you shared? It was big.
I forget. It was 70 or 90, but I want to
70.
say 90.
I mean, even
Yeah.
north of 70, that is unacceptable,
Yeah.
right? I mean, all this should be about risk mitigation. Let's. I know, like you know us, we could talk to you all day, Rich. There's so much cool stuff going on at Point B, but something coming up, and one of the impetus for us hopping on today is I wanted to talk to you guys and you specifically about this conference coming up, the RFDC conference in Vegas. What is it, the 11th of November? Yeah,
10, 11, and 12.
10,
10
11, and
USA, 10
12.
through 12.
Yeah.
Monday through Wednesday.
And so this is one that you guys are going to yet another show. And I know that every moment that you're not at the office or working, I mean, a show that's opportunity cost, right? And there's a reason you're going there. And so share a little bit about why Point B is going to the finance show, what your interest is in there, who you're looking to talk to maybe, because I think that's really meaningful.
Well, first off, we've been to a lot of conferences this year, and
Boy, oh boy.
it is great to be out on that conference circuit, if you will. I think of the restaurant industry as just massive when you think about how many people it employs. But when you think about the restaurant industry as a community, it feels small. And I tell people this all the time, and we feel very blessed to be a small part of that restaurant community. I'll just say, one, we're excited to go in and see our partners, see our clients, and meet with prospects. We also see this as a great opportunity to just learn a lot about what brands are faced with, challenges, get an understanding and kind of a picture of, as they consider growing their brand and expanding their brand, what are the financial challenges that come along with that?
Yeah.
Where might there be opportunities to help them navigate some of those things? So, I think when I spoke earlier, I shared with you guys that we focus on helping brands perform, helping them prepare to scale and become more efficient. I think a big reason why we're interested in this conference is that most brands are going there because they're looking to scale their business. And that's one of the things that I would arguably say is like, a third of what we focus on in this industry is helping brands prepare to scale. And so if you really want to know like why we have an interest in going, it's because we see value in helping brands do that. And we want to be a part of that conversation. I will be honest, this is the first time we are going to RFDC, so we're not a big sponsor. We're not going to have a booth. We're not going to be doing any of that, but we are going to be there to meet with people, to learn, attend sessions, to connect with prospects.
Yeah.
And to connect with our partners and clients and all that good stuff.
So Rich, I mean, the fit between a finance show and the kind of transformation Point B leads may not be obvious to many. However, there is a session. I'm going to read the name of the session and get your feedback on it. This
They
is
have
one
some
of the
good
sessions at
sessions.
the show. Top restaurant CFOs explain their changing role from financial partner to strategic and operational innovator.
Mm.
Think about the brands you work with, right? Are you seeing that, right, where the CFO, the financial leadership is more increasingly involved in operations, innovation, and transformation?
It's an interesting question. I would say, I mean, one of our clients that we work with, the CIO of the brand reports to the CFO. So the CFO is very involved in the decisions from a technology standpoint of what's happening in that brand. We see, in other instances where the CIO is or CTO is reporting directly to the CEO, that's common as well. But for some restaurant brands, the CIO is rolling up to a CFO or even a COO. So what you just described in terms of the name of that session probably doesn't surprise me too much. I think that the CFOs that are hyper aware of what technology can do for their business and embracing it in the right way, I think are oftentimes the ones who are more willing to make investments in transformation because they can see, oh, this is what we need to do to set ourselves up for the future. This is going to enable us, right? The technology enables the business to do what it ultimately wants to be able to do, to meet the guest where they want to be able to meet the guest, the way they want to be able to meet the guest, and the same for their team member. And I think those that are making investments in those ways, man, they're seeing some returns when it's done right, significant. But there are some that don't think of it that way, and they don't want to invest in technology probably the way they should. There's a lot of interesting brands, though, that are out there, some legacy brands that I would say delayed making investment in tech for a long time, and then they were subject to a cybersecurity situation,
Oof.
or they saw themselves losing to their competitors in a material way. And it wasn't until some of those things started to materialize that they were like, we have to do this. We've delayed it long enough. And they're starting to see, I think, a lot of the returns on that. So from my standpoint, CFOs that are interested in innovation, they're interested in data, they're interested in the types of insights that help them make good decisions. Those are oftentimes the CFOs that we're real interested in talking to because we think we can help them really move the needle for their business.
When you're going there, I'm sure there's a set of companies that you're really interested in talking to. And I was reviewing, I know that Flynn will be represented there. Some other big brands that'll be there as well. Share with me who you're excited to see. It doesn't have to be a commercial conversation, but if you could wave a wand and say, who are your top 3 companies you'd love to run into?
I mean, probably not dissimilar from some of the, a lot of the other folks in the industry that are interested in talking to some of the leaders. I mean, like we look at like a Chick-fil-A, they're a fantastic brand doing so many things really well, leading the industry in so many ways. We would be interested in talking to brands like Texas Roadhouse and Kava and Chipotle, just to name a few. McDonald's is another one that's interesting to us. But, there's so many out there. I mean, I'm just rattling off a few off the top of my head. But we'd be interested in talking to almost any of the brands out there that are within a certain size where it makes sense to consider partnering with a consulting firm. But yeah, those are a few just right off the top of my head that are interesting. I don't even know if those brands are all planning to be there or not. If they are and they happen to be listening, I'd love to meet you. So
Yeah.
I'll throw that out.
I'm all about manifesting. You put it in the world, I think it's going to start happening, right?
That's it. I love it.
Who from the team's coming?
So from our side, we will have Michael Velichka, who's a senior vice president at Point B, and he actually has oversight over multiple industries, including restaurant and hospitality.
Yeah.
He's going to come join me. He doesn't get out to conferences very often, but we're dragging him, and I think he's going to have a great time.
I'm convinced you lock him in that side meeting room when you walk in the front door and go left. I always see him in that room.
Well, he does spend a lot of time there. Pat Cormany will be joining me as well.
Right.
So Pat goes to a lot of these with me. And then we have a new member of the team that is joining. This will be her first, I guess you could say.
Are we announcing here? Can we say this?
I guess we're going to use this as our announcement mechanism. But Justine Job is actually joining Point B. This will be her first conference with us. Her first day with us is actually November the 3rd. We are super excited. And, her dad was gracious enough to, David Job was gracious enough allow this to happen, I guess you could say, or endorse it or bless it or whatever you want to call it. But we're thrilled to have Justine, so she'll be with us as well. So a team of
we're big fans of Justine's, and hearing that news is super exciting that you guys made that connection. You couldn't have picked better.
Well, thank you. We are very excited to have her join the team and think that, she'll be able to bring a lot of value to Point B and to our clients and our partners and all of that. And she's going to have a unique role also within the firm. She's our partner development leader. So she will be focused on working primarily with our partners and helping us prepare for and execute, events and attend events better. And I mean, there's just going to be a big focus of how we can create greater value for our partners and really create a more mature partner program within Point B focused on restaurants and hospitality.
Yeah, it sounds like we get to work with Justine again.
And sounds like our worlds intersect greatly. So
Love
Indeed.
that. Yeah, it's one of the things that struck me, and I think if I'm a potential client of Point B, I would want to know is it is not easy to get into the Point B team. Your hiring process is crazy. So Justine and all of you guys had to bring it once upon a time to even become a Point B team member, and so that's the caliber of people that your clients get to work with every day.
That's right. I mean, we try to keep the bar high because it reduces the risk, I guess you could say, because the work we do is complex, and the clients place a great deal of value on making sure that we're going to get the outcomes that we commit to. So we got to make sure that the bar is high and we get the best folks on the team that we possibly can to go and do good work, right, for our clients. So that's why that bar is high. It's not easy for a variety of reasons, but Justine met the bar. You know what I mean?
Boom.
We're excited to have her.
Boom. Well, hey, we have to land the plane here, and I know I went over our time. This big surprise, Michael Beck, over time. But really quickly, Chad, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you have in mind? Because we're attending the event as well as Think Tank, and you're a representative there. What do you have in mind for Point B while you're there? How are we going to help?
I'm there. I'm going to try my best to facilitate the conversations between Point B and brands that need to happen. Those brands like the ones Rich was calling out that probably would be in a great spot if they could at least have that introduction. So it's one of the main hats I'll be wearing at that event, I think.
It's a good hat for you. You do really well at it. That's one of the reasons I love your work. Well, let's land the plane. I know that you have things you have to get on to, Rich, and I always value when you're able to park time for us to have these conversations. Knowing that you're going to be at the Restaurant Finance and Development Conference here coming up, that's exciting. Is it the last show of the season for you?
Other than our client conferences, right? So we've got a brand we work with that's throwing a conference in December. That will be like the last official conference we attend, but then NRF is right around the corner in January.
Right around the corner, yeah. Well,
so, that'll wrap it up, though.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I think eventually you have to go home and do all the work. Like you guys have been biz deving all over the place, and I know you don't. The work doesn't get shorted, but every time we're on the road, it's an opportunity cost, and so
indeed,
it just shows your investment commitment to continuing to create connections in our industry and growing that part of your business. Well, in closing, I always like to try to connect people with you that want to have those conversations. What's the best way for folks to engage if they heard something here they liked, or they are headed to the show and they're a brand and they just got called out? Or is it LinkedIn's the best spot? How do they get a hold of you?
I mean, LinkedIn's a great way. I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn pretty easily. I would say going to pointb.com. You can go there. You can, tap into our restaurant page and you can submit a request for more information. Those would probably be the two easiest ways. They can always reach out to you, Michael Beck. I know you can put them in touch with me.
I hand out your number like it's a little pull tab on the telephone pole outside. Yes.
There we go. Just keep doing that. That's perfect. So yeah, those would probably be the easiest ways, but I'm not hard to find.
Awesome. Well, I think that ends us on a perfect note here, Chad, unless you have anything else to offer.
See you in Vegas.
Right. Yeah, we'll see you in Vegas.
Hey, thank you guys so much. This has been great. Really appreciate it.
All day. And on last note, if mom's watching, Miss Falto or Mrs. Falto, we're glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
We're glad you're feeling better. So
she's definitely feeling better.
Good. Well, the boy like you out there, she's probably just making herself crazy, being so proud. I'm going to leave that On the final note there, so everybody, thank you so much for being part of our audience and letting us be part of your community. I always close with one last thought, which is random acts of kindness. Spread those things everywhere. Everybody might be having a day that they could just use a little bit of that. And selfishly, when you do it, you feel pretty good yourself.